We believe in Carolina basketball. It's a very special edition of this show, and we're new. I'm Graham Bum, former Division One college point guard. I got my brother from another brother-in-law, Mr. Zack Talitsky, UNC alum, all-around good guy. And the word legend gets tossed around a lot. In my book, the gentleman that's joining us tonight is a legend in my book. I love him. We've got our paths in our life our circles have touched one another. He is a legend in our hometown, Shawan Robinson, former Clemson standout. And I'll be honest with you, I knew you were a really good player because obviously you're from Raleigh and I was proud of you. I need to give you more flowers and credit. I was talking to my brother. I was like, Shawan was really, really good at basketball and a really good college player. Shawan Robinson joining us, Clemson Tiger. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I put this on for you, by the way. This
Okay.
is my
No,
high
I
school
got an old Lisa
uniform.
one in the closet. I wish I would have known.
And this is the biggest T-shirt that I could get into because some of the photos that I pull up of you playing, to be a shooter, you wore the biggest T-shirt I've ever seen for anybody that played college basketball. You got to give me the story behind that.
It just was comfort. I started when I was 10, 11 years old. I was scrawny. Felt like I didn't look big enough. So I threw the T-shirt on. And, to this day, I won't hoop without now it's a long sleeve T-shirt because I'm old, but I won't play without one.
Yeah, well, you were a hell of a player, man, and we can't say enough. Just having you on, we were really pumped, and this is something that we've just started, and we've got some great guests that are going to come and do the show. And you're right there at the top of the list, man. Just led the team in scoring your senior year. You were second in team in scoring. Sophomore and junior year, you gave Carolina fits, and we got a big game coming up. I know that you're very busy. You're a very successful high school basketball coach. Saturday's a big game for the Clemson Tigers. Have you been paying attention to the season? Are you looking forward to the game? And what was it like in your time gearing up for Carolina? Because you had some pretty big games against Carolina.
Yeah, nah. You always wanted to play against you feel like they passed up on you. They recruit at a different level. They had a lot of guys that I played against. I have been paying attention to the Clemson season. We're not something in two. I know we lost to Memphis and we lost last night to Miami. But I think that Coach Brownell is doing a great job. He's got one of my former players down there as a GA. So he gets to, I get some gear every now and then. So I get to still rep my Tigers. But I think they're doing a fabulous job. As far as when I was there, did it just go away?
No, you're here. I got you.
We got you.
All right. As far as when I played, I always geared up, for the Tar Heels. I think my best game against them was my sophomore year. It was a noon game. I'll never forget. My back was hurting. I was worried about, how I was feeling going into the game. And probably had one of my best games in the Clemson uniform that day. And we were able to pull off the upset against a top 20 Carolina team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't say it enough, but I remember, and again, like I said, I played in the same high school conference. I think your dad was the head coach at Leesville when I was playing. So I played against your dad. Love your dad. He coached at App State. He's a legend in Boone, North Carolina, and, an incredible basketball player in his own right. But I remember you having a really good game against Carolina, I think in the ACC tournament. Did you not match up with Carolina? I think we got it done as far as, we being Carolina. But I remember you playing really, really well in the ACC tournament versus Carolina.
Yes. So my junior year was at the MCI Center. We had beat Maryland in the first round. I had a really good game against Maryland. And then
I
we
looked it up.
played
It was
again.
like
We had the
26
Tar
points.
Heels.
Really good. It was like 26. He was rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. We beat John Gilchrist and Nick Canamelli in the Terrapins. And then we had Carolina at noon. They were the number 1 seed. And I just went off in the first half. I think I had 15 or 17 in the first half. And we were winning most of the game. I want to say we were up like 13 with 8 minutes left. And then Raymond Felton showed us why he was who he was. And he just went nuts in the last 8 minutes. I believe we ended up losing by 5 or 6. One of the tougher losses, because I do know that, we win that game is one of the bigger upsets and bigger wins in Clemson history. But that was a great time. I was fortunate enough to be make the All ACC tournament team, which is something that not a lot of people get to say they've done. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Amazing.
giving Carolina fits. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Shawan, I read that you were an academic All ACC all 4 seasons. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Academic All ACC school kind of always came easy to me. It was something. Both my parents are teachers, and it was just something that came easy. I made sure I got my books done, I really didn't get my books done because I cared about the books. I got my books done. I wanted to make sure I could give myself every opportunity to play basketball.
Man, that's awesome.
That
What
is
was it
awesome.
like? Because I got a chance to play. I missed you by 1 year. I was at App State.
Mm-hmm.
We played at Clemson my junior year. And then you came in. My senior year was your freshman year. And it was really cool. It was a pretty close game. We ended up losing by 8, I think. But it was, the last 2 minutes, it was pretty nip and tuck. Your boy had double figures. Just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. Just putting it out there. But what was it like playing down there? Because I remember the scene being crazy. Like, I felt like the student section was great. I felt like the support was there. Like, what did you enjoy your experience playing home games, big noon? The Carolina, I'm sure the atmosphere is going to be nuts on Saturday. But what was your experience?
Nah, Little John got to rocking. It was, big games, ACC games. You'd have somebody's grandma cursing you out.
Yeah.
It's definitely a great atmosphere. There's nothing like winning. Like winning. People don't realize how hard it is to win college basketball games. And throughout my time, I want to say I've looked back at it. Maybe I was 500 over my 4 years. But winning a college basketball game is hard, and winning in the ACC is hard. But there was nothing like being at home in Little John and making shots and not even being able to hear yourself think. I think when I fell in love with Clemson, it was my senior year of high school. I think Carolina was ranked number 1 in the country. They had Joe Forte, and I remember Stockman and Chris Hobbs being freshmen and going down there, and being at home and just seeing how the fans reacted to that win. I knew I had made the right choice.
Yeah, that had to be very special for Chris Hobbs because if I'm not mistaken, he's a Chapel Hill guy. I think he went to high school in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, he went to school. He went to East Chapel High. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they won a state title my senior year. We end up losing it in the finals.
He led that. Yeah, he
before.
a state championship. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very. Which is
Yeah,
held in
he
the
led
Dean Dome, which
them.
is
I think he
nice.
was a freshman at the time.
You made the state championship game as well, didn't you? Didn't you guys make the state title game? Your high school team was loaded. I was bragging on you guys to Zach.
Yeah, we made the state championship game as a player. I made it as a coach as well. I'm still
Oh
winless
man,
in the Dean Dome as far as that goes. But just me
it's coming.
personally. But yeah, I hope so. We lost in my junior year in the state championship game. I played along, DJ Thompson, a fellow App State
Yeah,
guy. I played
yeah,
with Anthony Richardson, was a McDonald's All-American, played at Florida State, and a couple other guys that a little bit under the radar, but we were very, very good, very
yeah.
good. And then
I
2
remember
years
hearing
ago,
stories about you guys.
2022. Yeah, and then 2022, my players helped bring me back to the brink. We lost to Weddington in the state championship game, but it was awesome to be there as a player and as a coach.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes without saying. I'm going to say it anyway. You're a winner, and I'm very, very proud of you. I would not put this tight ass jersey on for just anybody. I put it on for you. I cannot thank you
Well, I
enough for
appreciate
coming
it.
on here, man. Hey, give us some predictions, and then Zach, I'm gonna let you jump in here. But give us some predictions. What do you think is gonna happen on Saturday? How you feeling?
I think we win by like 7. I think we got a veteran group. PJ Hall is going to dominate the paint. And I'm looking forward to see what the junkyard dog Ian Shefflin does. Our guard play is good, so I think we got a chance. We got a veteran group. I know Carolina's kind of, they're kind of young and old. A bunch of new faces. So I think their first time in Little John, they leave with a 6-point loss.
All right, all right. Zach, I'll defer to you, man. Hop in there.
Yeah, I had not watched Clemson, and I was trying trying to scout a little bit. So I watched some of the Miami game last night, and I was really impressed with Shefflin. I didn't realize his nickname was the Junkyard Dog, but I can see how he earned that. I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup with him and Ingram. I assume they're going to go head to head. Shefflin seems a little bit more like a traditional 4. I think he's averaging like 10 boards a game, 3 or 4 offensive boards a game. Ingram likes to be a little bit more of a perimeter guy. So sort of who can get the advantage in that matchup, I think will be interesting to watch. And of course, PJ Hall and Baycott could be pretty epic, but hopefully the refs kind of stay out of the way a little bit. I feel like, I'd like to see those guys on the floor battling. I hope like somebody doesn't pick up 2 cheap ones early and has to sit or something. It'd be nice to see them going at it for 35 minutes.
Yeah, Shawan, are you able to stay because you're so busy with your own team and obviously having incredible success in your own coaching career? Are you able to stay kind of attached to the program in any shape or form? Like, are you able to make any kind of games? Because I know it's got to be tough. It's overlapping for you.
Yeah, it is tough to make games. I try to make games when they come to the Triangle, but I'm pretty attached. I check in with AJ Morris, who played for me at Panther Creek, who's now a GA down there. I touch base with him, and he kind of just gives me, check on what's going on down there. Coach Bender has recruited a couple of our guys. I had a guy that was at Carolina the past 2 years. So, I'm just able to stay in touch with, with the guys that have played for me and keep a temperature on what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. He's at Hawaii now, right? How's he doing? Is he doing all right?
He's at Hawaii. He's averaging double figures. He's second in rebounds. I got 2 guys at Hawaii. Another one by the name of Juan Munoz, who's in his 8th year of eligibility. He's had some unfortunate injuries, but it's good to see those guys battling on the court together.
Yeah, I got a chance to play at Hawaii my freshman year when I was playing at Bowling Green, and I highly recommend anybody signing at Hawaii. That was awesome. I was like, and the arena's great there. They've got a great arena there. I mean, you're in Hawaii, but then also the facilities were really cool. So we wish him the best, and that's really, really cool. Wish you the best. And unfortunately, this is where we part ways. I kind of hope you guys lose.
Okay.
I'm not going to make apologies.
Okay.
But I am still and will always be. And then shout out, you mentioned DJ earlier. DJ, if you ever happen to see this, even though you erased me from any memory at Appalachian State, I love you. I'm proud of you. And you're definitely the best number 11 to play at Appalachian State. And I'm okay saying that.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. I don't get to talk to D1 athletes that often. And so I'm curious about something. So, Carolina just fired Gene Chizik. So it got me thinking a little bit about, football versus basketball coaches and the staff and how the staff are treated. And I think like most, even like somewhat casual football fans, like know the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator for their teams. But like, I don't really know, just as a basketball fan, like how the staff gets set up and like what the different roles are for a typical like D1 college basketball staff. Like would Clemson or North Carolina typically have a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator, or how are those roles assigned? And I guess both of you guys played under multiple coaches, I think, and maybe different coaches have different philosophies. But I just love to hear I feel like it gets talked about a lot less in basketball than it does in football. Like in football, if your offense is struggling, we got to fire the coordinator. Yeah, we got to get a new scheme in here. But in basketball, I feel like it doesn't get talked about the same way. So I was just sort of curious how staffs are constructed and what the roles are.
Yeah, I'll let Shawan take that. I'd love to hear your POV because Shawan's been on both sides of the ball for that.
Yeah, I think college staffs are constructed when a guy is promoted or gets a college job. It's way more about, he's going to find guys that he's comfortable with, guys that he trusts. I think on a typical staff, you have your head coach, obviously. A lot of times he's the personality. Obviously, he knows his basketball. He knows what he wants. He knows how he wants it structured. And then typically there's an X and O's guy, 1 or 2 X and O's guys that really break down film, can put the guys in the most successful situations. And then you'll have 1 or to recruiters or relationships guys. And I think, every stat that you look at will be broke down in some sort of way like that, because the X's and O's don't mean anything unless you got the players. And, if you have a bunch of talented guys without somebody who can break down the X's and O's, then it's tough. I've sat in on some recruiting calls with my guys, as they were trying to choose their college destinations. And the ones that seem to struggle the most is like when the head coach doesn't have a whole lot of personality. And then I've sat on some calls where, I could tell that my guys were putty in the whoever was talking to them hand. So, I think the most important thing is getting guys in. As far as guys getting fired and hired, I think at that level, they make so much money. That's what they're there for. They're there to get fired or promoted. Nobody, unless you're the head coach at Carolina or Kansas or Duke, it's not for the most part, it's not I'm going to be here forever. It's a I'm going to be here until I can get a better job or until, they can buy me out. So it's not a bad gig if you can endure the lifestyle.
Yeah, very well said. One more question before you go, just because I'm super interested. I got a chance to play at some pretty cool venues when I was in college, and nothing in comparison to what I would imagine that you were able to experience, because unfortunately you were just a better player than me. But what were some of your favorite venues or places to play when you were at Clemson, besides Clemson? Because I would imagine, like you said, it was rocking when you were there, and you had great success there. But like, what were some of the teams that you just really enjoyed playing there? I saw someone came out with a list of like the top 5 college basketball venues the other day, and I agreed with all of them. But there's got to be so many. Like, we got to play against Dwayne Wade at Marquette, and we did play Carolina when I was a transfer, which was really cool. And I got to play at Little John. I got to play at Assembly Hall against Bob Knight. That was also really, really cool for me. What about yourself?
Don't sleep on Athens. Come on now.
I did. Hey, your boy had 19 at Athens.
I know you did.
Georgia.
I was there.
That's right. Hey, I did all right.
I think for me, I grew up an ACC kid. My dad played for Bobby Crimmins. So for me, it was nothing like, there was nothing comparable to being a little kid at Georgia Tech basketball camp. And then, being on that stage and the Thriller Dome. They didn't have the new, the arena. I don't know what it's called now.
Right.
McCamish, yeah. I think. They didn't have that. And then as a kid, also, my cousin played at UVA. So being able to, grow up being at his games and then playing in, at the Virginia, home games, yeah. Home site. But of course, the Dean Dome, Coach Purnell would make us, if we walked in, we couldn't, you had to act like it was business as usual. And it should have been, guys, we didn't have phones, camera phones back then. So I don't know what it would have looked like. And of course, Duke. But I think my favorite place to play on the road, probably Maryland.
Really?
I enjoyed Maryland. Their fans were crazy. And I think we got them the last 2 times that I was up there. So it was nice to leave to a quiet home crowd.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Well, hey, man, I can't thank you enough. Super cool to talk to you. I hope that I'm sending you a text, a very respectful, handshaking text on Saturday. We wish you all the best in all that you do. We'd love to have you back sometime if we have to match up in the tournament or down the road. You got an open door invitation anytime you want to come here, man. We love you. We appreciate you. And again, I couldn't be more proud of the player that you ended up being. It's really cool to be attached to you a little bit just because we're from Raleigh, and you were kind enough to include me in some summer runs with PJ Tucker and a bunch of other guys. You were like, yeah, we need a guy to pass us the ball. We bring this kid in here. We'll let it in. So I appreciate you letting me come in there and mix it up with those guys. It gave me some really cool stories, man.
And for sure. And before I go, man, I just want to thank you. You are somebody that, you are a few years older than me, and hearing, you were being recruited, you were somebody that I followed and looked up to. And, you get to a point where you're like, your idols become your rivals. Being able to step on the court and compete with you, as a youth was amazing. So, hats off to you as well. And, I keep up with you now, on Instagram from afar. So you're doing big things, and, I hope you continue to do them.
Well, you're the man, and honestly, you're too nice for your own good. I'm pretty sure that you were a better player than me in high school than I was in college, but I'll take it. I was an overachiever.
I'll take
You
it.
were
I'll take it.
you were a very special player, and it's really cool to have you on, man. You're the man. Thanks so much, buddy. Please give your family our best, and we wish your
Thank you.
your
Thank
high
you,
school
guys.
team
Nice to meet
all the
you.
best. Yep.
Nice to meet you, Shawan.
I love that guy.
I appreciate
Man,
it.
that's awesome.
Nice to meet
See
you.
you,
Have
buddy.
a good one.
Hey, man, Shawan Robinson, Clemson. Yeah, man, super cool just to get, former players to come on and talk. And that guy, like, it's super special for me just because he's from my hometown. I competed against his dad. And yeah, dude, I like looking up his stats and seeing some of the games that he had. I mean, there's 26, 24, led the team in scoring, senior year, and just very, very, very special.
Yeah, I mean, great shooter, right? 91% from the free throw line, 38% three-point shooter. By the way, I looked up your three-point shooting percentage at App because I was curious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
4.45.
Yeah.
Over 2 seasons.
I was legit.
Come on, man.
I was 50% one year, one of those years. I should have shot more.
You should have shot more, man. Playing in the wrong era.
There was my mom, and bless her heart, they will get into my mom. I think sent a letter one time, was like, with all the analytics before analytics were cool, was like, look how much this dude's scoring per minute. Play him. It was like, I'm like, I think my coach showed it to me. He was like, it's kind of weird that I got this, but it's kind of makes sense. I'm, we're gonna rock with you a little bit. I was like, yeah, come on, man. I had to like beg my coaches to just let me off the chain a little bit, and I'm very proud of what I was able to accomplish. And thank you for mentioning that, because I'm very proud that I was very efficient with my shot attempts and with my percentages. I never felt like I was a detriment to the team.
Oh no, man! If you shoot 4.45 now, they make you shoot every time.
Yeah, I think I'd make a lot more money now, because I think my skill set was tailor-made for this age. I mean, there was a couple games. I think we played at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and I was 6 of 7 from 3. And I remember our coach, I actually hit a 3 to put us up 4, I think, to like close the game out with like 10 seconds left or something. Shot clock was going down. And that's not a humble brag. The only reason I bring that up is because I was at halftime, I think I was 4 of 4 from 3. And I remember my coach saying, hey, don't fall in love with the 3. So then I was like, oh, all right, so maybe I shouldn't shoot 3s. You know what I mean? Like, it got in my mind of like, oh, okay, well, I've shot enough. I've already made 4. I shouldn't shoot anymore. And like, he didn't mean it that way. He was just trying to say, hey, don't fall in love with it. Make sure you're still getting everybody involved. Nowadays, you're 4 for 4 at halftime. They're like, hey man, you got to get up 5 or 6 more. And so it's just a different game.
Yeah, I think we might need to add a segment on things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Because that was one in that era, looking back, it's like so obvious that it just didn't make any sense. And of course the game's changed, a ton as people have analyzed it and realized 3 is worth more than 2. But I think there's still other things in basketball that don't make sense to me. So it'd be fun to talk about some of those and see if we can get them right.
Yeah. Well, looking back on it, who was ahead of his time? I'm going to give you a guess. He was an ACC head coach, and his whole thing was, let's get 3s up. Let's get 3s up. And it was like way before the age of analytics and way before teams were shooting 25 to 32 threes a game. I'll give you one guess.
Well, I mean, so this may be not what you're thinking, but the one I remember is the 83 NC State team with Valvano, because that was the year the ACC experimented with the 3-point shot. And if you remember, it was shorter than the top of the key.
Yeah, it cut the top of the key off at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you go back, you watch highlights from that ACC championship run that State had, and like, I mean, Terry Gannon's shooting like a mid-range jump shot that counts 3 points, and they
well, they needed it to beat Ralph Sampson in Virginia. Like, you weren't going inside. They were like, we got to figure something out to make these games entertaining.
Yeah, and Carolina had Brad Doherty, and then everybody thought, well, that was sort of a fluky run, and then they get an NCAA tournament. An NCAA tournament did not have the 3-point shot yet in '83,
right?
And so people didn't really give State a chance. Which makes that run all the more incredible because they didn't have the 3. But that's the one that comes to mind for me first.
Well, to piggyback that, it was Les Robinson. Do you remember him at NC State with like Jeremy Hyatt and all those, Ishua Benjamin? like his whole thing was, let's get threes up. Let's get threes up. And, it didn't work out for him because I don't think he, like in theory, yes, that is obviously where the game was trending. I don't think they recruited the players that fit that mold necessarily. You know what I mean? But yeah, Shawan, great shooter. I think one of the reasons, you brought up, I was a decent 3-point shooter, which is why I harp on Carmack Ryan's percentage as a 5th-year or 6-year senior. He can't shoot 30% from three. It's like drives me crazy. It's just, that's one of the few things that I feel I'm not that you got to be qualified to make, observations about somebody's shooting percentage, but I look at the type of looks he gets and I know what kind of shooter he is. I've seen him shoot. I know he can shoot better. I don't know what the disconnect is. And I think you're right. I think it will regress to the mean and it will lift up. It's just driving me nuts right now because he's getting great looks. And as a good shooter, you make those shots. It's like I look at that and I see myself like, oh, man, I can make that shot. And in my defense a little bit, I was taking threes off the bounce. He's getting kick out threes. So that's why I get a little, I'm like, oh, man, make that. You got to make that.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. You'd think, given his experience level, it's not like he's a young guy, and so he's struggling with confidence or any of those things. So again, that it gives me some confidence that it's going to return. But yeah, you're right. Like it's got to get up around 35%.
Yeah. All right. Well, keys to the game, man. I think we talked about it. I wanted to make sure, and I felt bad. So apologies to anybody that's watching this that felt like there was a delay. I'm new to this, so I'm learning. There was a crazy delay with Shawan's answers, and that made it challenging in some regard. So if you're watching this and felt like it was choppy, we're working the kinks out. But it was really, really cool to have him on. And again, somebody that's been in that rivalry, someone that understands what it's like going into that game. And this one is huge. I mean, this honestly, at the end of the day, this could play a major factor at who wins the ACC. You know what I mean? Like if we go in there and we steal one on their home floor, that's going to be massive down the road. And definitely for our NCAA resume when it comes to March Madness. But if you had some keys to the game, how are you feeling about the game? What are your thoughts? Any and all of the above.
Yeah. I think last show I had not watched them, so I did try to watch the Miami game, and they really are a little more. They're deeper, and their starting five is really solid. 1 through 5. I mean, you got to guard everybody, and I think they're getting about 30 points a game from the bench. We're getting about 19. So they're a solid, I think, deep team. And so, I think, when I first was thinking about the game, I was thinking more PJ Hall and Gerard, and if we could focus on them and shut them down, we'd have a really good chance. But they have more depth than I anticipated, so they're a tough matchup. And that Shefflin kid that Shawan mentioned, they're sort of more a traditional 4-5. And both of those guys, PJ Hall and Shefflin, go to the boards hard. And so, we showed up on the boards against Pittsburgh. We're going to have to do that again. And against those two guys, it's going to be a chore. So, we're going to have to gang rebound. Ingram's going to have to focus on the boards like he did against Pittsburgh, or Shefflin's going to, get 10, 15 boards and, 8 putbacks. So, but at the same time, I think if Ingram can take Shefflin out and get him on the perimeter, he needs to shoot well, like he was at the earlier in the year, and kind of force him away from the basket. I think that's going to be interesting. I didn't appreciate how good of a shooter PJ Hall is from the perimeter. I mean, really he's very confident from 3, and Baycott, I think, is less comfortable guarding out there. So I think that's going to be interesting to see if Baycott can not only guard him down low, but also is he getting open looks from 3, and does he knock those down? And of course, you can't let Gerard get going. I mean, I feel like he's one of those guys that whoever's guarding him can't switch off. Like, you have to stay attached to him. You got to pick him up early because he'll pull it from deep. And then once he gets going, that's tough. So I don't know. They're a strong team. I mean, even though they lost against Miami, I was impressed with their quality, sort of 1 through 5, and their depth.
Yeah. I mean, Shawan said it best. Like, it's really hard to win in college basketball, and they were on the road. They were at Miami. They're home now. They're coming off a loss. Not that they wouldn't have prepared, but it's different. It just is. And anyone that has played a high level college basketball, and I'm not including myself in that, but I did play for a guy that was played for Bobby Knight, head assistant for Indiana for 16 years. Like, we watched an ungodly amount of tape. Coming off a loss, no matter where you're at in college basketball, if that team is going to be remotely successful, you get in, you break down tape. And after a loss, you break down a lot of tape. So they're going to be prepared. They're going to come and they're going to get we're going to get their best shot. We get everyone's best shot. But coming off a loss, I think last time I looked, Clemson was 16th in the country. They've legitimized themselves. They are a legit contender to win the ACC. A lot of experts are picking them. They know they cannot lose at home to Carolina, because then that puts them behind the 8 ball to climb the ladder to get back in the mix for the title. I just think it's going to be very, very challenging. I watched a couple of their games. One of them that stood out, I watched every play of the Alabama game, the ACC SEC Challenge. They won at Alabama. Gerard and PJ Hall hit massive shots in that. So I think as far as Clemson goes, they have really good leadership. I think they're really well coached. And the one thing that I'm concerned about for us is if it gets out of hand early. Like, how do our guys respond on the road to climbing back in it? Because we haven't played. Shawan said we're old, but we're kind of young because we don't have a ton of games underneath our belt. And then also, we do have a 17-year-old starting point guard that should be a senior in high school. So you're in a volatile environment. If it gets out of hand early, I just don't know if we have the experience to calm ourselves and chip away at a lead and climb back into it. I think we got to keep it close from tip to tip and steal it in the last 5 minutes. That's honestly, if I was a betting man and I was hoping that we come away with a win, I think that's how it would happen.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if we can stack up some intense games back to back. I feel like this team in the last couple of years has had trouble with consistent effort, consistent intensity, playing to that standard that I know Hubert always references all the time. And so I think we're going to learn a lot, right? It'd be easy to say, oh, we stole one on the road against Pittsburgh. We don't necessarily have to get this one. And so, don't come out with the same level of fire that we're going to need to do to win the game. So that's what I'm curious to see is, can this team do it every game, or is there some sort of drop off here? But our schedule's been crazy. I mean, after Saturday, we will have played. I looked it up: the 5th, 6th, 17th, 24th, 26th, and 27th team ranked in KenPom in our first 14 games. Yeah. So, I mean, this team's tested. I mean, we're probably as tested as any team in the country. So, I mean, I think that gives us, a good shot, and we'll be prepared. But I just want to see us be able to 9 in and 9 out play at that same level, and hopefully they'll show us that.
Yeah, the only thing that I kind of fall back on to maybe give you a little bit of ease in some of those worries or concerns is I don't underestimate the bad taste or the sting of missing the NCAA tournament had after being ranked number 1 in the country last year. So, I don't think we're too far removed where that doesn't play a factor in hey, guys, we won at Pitt. Great. But, not that it's embarrassing. It's hard to win in college basketball. But when you're a kid, like I was a kid, I remember getting rolled by West Virginia by 35, maybe even 40 one game. And 6-7 games later, still thinking about how embarrassing that was and how we cannot allow someone to do that to us again. And I don't know, missing the NCAA tournament, being the first team ever to do that after being ranked preseason number 1. I don't think they take not one game for granted this year. I loved, and again, I'm not someone that talked a lot of trash. I kind of talked to my own team. If someone talked to me, obviously I'm human. I would, I'd say some stuff too. But I loved when they came out and said, "We're coming for everybody. Like we're not gonna allow what happened to us last year to happen again." And I felt like that was okay. There's an emphasis on every day in practice, on every rep in practice, on every road trip, on every game. I just feel like last year's impact on the upper echelon of leadership, and it starts with Hubert Davis, is going to play a factor in never being like resting on our laurels.
They played consistently well all season. I mean, maybe with the exception of the Kentucky game. And so that seems to be playing out. I think RJ's leadership and his consistent play is helping a ton. So yeah, I it gives me a lot of hope. I hope hopefully we'll see it again on Saturday.
Yeah,
Win or
it's
lose,
9 a.m.
even if we lose the game,
Yeah.
I just want to see the same level of intensity that we had against Pitt.
Yeah, agreed. 9 a.m. for me. So I'll text you before. I'll be up. I'm gonna try to run a few miles. I'm not gonna be able to sleep. I'm gonna be excited about the game, and then you and I can discuss when we'll do our next episode. But until then, man, go Heels. Love you, brother. Thanks for being here. And how cool was it to have a Clemson Tiger come on here and talk about that rivalry?
Yeah, great guy.
Awesome. All right, you're the man. We'll talk soon. Don't go anywhere. Just hang on for 1 second. Go Heels.